I saw you had tweeted at me, and I didn't respond to it. Why everybody hates capitalism, and it's something I don't understand either. Like this weird movement towards like hard socialism.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, dude, why? Who wants that? Like, I want things like university. Cut down the prices. Right. Healthcare affordable for people. Social safety nets for certain people. There should be some social programs that help out within a society. But no, man, not this full on just like that guy has more, he should give it to us. I don't know why, I just want it.
You know what? Like that is the thing. There's this I wrote an article about it. If anybody wants to read it, like you can go on my Medium page, I guess. Just Google Medium Brad Mills Capitalism is a good way to find it. Because I don't have a good, easy access link. But like the way I was thinking about it was, there is definitely this trend towards hating capitalism and being very pro-socialism, and it's got to do with the mainstream news and like AOC and Sanders and like all these progressives that, while I really like what they're saying in their message about anti-corruption and everything, they don't know really what they're talking about when it comes to the economy and making money, because most of them are broke. So, you know, when it comes to making money, you want to have regulations, but you want to have a free market so that someone who's got the motivation to go and start a business that provides value to the world can make money. And you do want to have a social safety net for certain people who are like got mental problems or given a shit lot in life. But really, it's just it's a symptom, because we don't really have capitalism in America or even in Canada, really. It's like a counterfeit capitalism.
What I didn't like about Trace was especially that he did this, but this is also what Richard Hart did. It's not different. It's a typical shitcoin move. So I don't like it. It's not about trading shitcoins. I find a shitcoin trader quite honest, because when you're trading a shitcoin, when you buy, what you're saying to the market is, I think this asset will go up. So if you buy a shitcoin, you think it will go up, and you are being honest with the market. And when you sell it, what you're telling the market is that I think this asset will go down. So a pure trader of shitcoins, I think it's completely honest with the others, because it's giving signals that are consistent with his knowledge. The problem is that a pumper is not a trader. A pumper is somebody which is buying and then giving a false signal to the market, a signal that he knows it's false, in order to be able to sell, while at the same time is saying the other people to buy. So I'm saying everybody, you should buy, so I can sell, I can download my bag. So Trace was doing this, which is kind of the norm about shitcoiners, but he did two things that I consider even more serious. The second thing was he prepared this pump with months of false propaganda about CoinJoin. There was something really strange about the way the Bitcoin handle and Trace in general were discussing CoinJoin. It's true that CoinJoin may have a risk, like you use CoinJoin and your account on an exchange get flagged. That's a risk, that's a cost that you may ponder, but it's also true that first, there is another symmetrical risk, which is you don't do CoinJoin, and now people within the exchange can know everything about your future and past expenses, which is a risk for your personal security as well. So it's not that not CoinJoining and leaving everything traced is not a risk.
Say a Federal Reserve bank, because there were 12 regional banks.
Yeah.
One of them puts out a $20 gold coin.
Okay.
Excuse me, $20 Federal Reserve note. That would have been redeemable in gold coin, which was a $20 gold coin, a little less than an ounce. And there were
was it pegged to $20 at the time?
Oh yes, absolutely. Gold coin was a $20 gold coin was a little less than an ounce of gold, according to the statute. Right?
Okay.
So a $20 Federal Reserve note was redeemable by law in $20 in gold coin. Only gold. Federal Reserve System was not on the silver standard; it was only on the gold standard. So if one went to a Federal Reserve bank and said, here's my paper note, the bankers were supposed to give you the gold coin. If they didn't, then you had a claim against the United States Treasury.
Okay.
And then the Treasury could turn around and it had a first lien. It put itself as the creditor ahead of everybody else, as against that Federal Reserve Bank which had issued that particular note, to liquidate the assets of that Federal Reserve Bank to redeem that note. So it's a very interesting system the way it worked. The Federal Reserve was nothing like it is today in the sense of it can do essentially anything it wants in the financial markets. It was tied down very carefully, at least in terms of its issuance of the actual currency, to this gold standard system. Comes 32, of course, Roosevelt is elected. In 33, the first thing he does is call a bank holiday. They call in the gold coins. They change the standard and so forth and so on all the way through 34. So you had this, and repudiate all of the so-called gold clause contracts that were required by their own terms to be paid in gold. So that whole system is wiped out by the end of 1934. Silver was still left in the system. What's fascinating about this is silver was still left in the system. The constitutional dollar was still there. Roosevelt never touched that. But he changed the gold system entirely.
Instinctively, without Googling, what do you think US dollars are backed by? And honestly, it's wild to think that only 22% of the population knows that the US dollar is now backed by nothing. So everybody else either thought gold reserve, mix of gold and other assets, 26% and 37% respectively. So that's quite shocking. If you look at the differences between male and female, there was one significant difference is that women got it significantly more right than men. Which is a little win for females. So 26% of women said nothing and 16% of men said nothing, but still quite low considering that is the right answer, and 75-80% of them got it wrong.
And the generational effect on that was probably, I would assume, boomers mostly thought it was gold reserves and Gen Z thought it was nothing. That's what I would assume.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So boomers and Gen X were more likely to think that it was still backed by gold reserves and Fort Knox. And Gen Z and millennials were more likely to think that it was backed by mix of gold and other assets. So.
Right, and that's what I would assume, because boomers grew up when there was actually a backing.
I don't know. What do you think? Like, talking to your network, you interact with like lots of people in like you were just talking to Ray Dalio, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to these people in your circle, does Bitcoin ever come up? And like, what are they? I'm curious what the conversations are like if you ever talk to people about Bitcoin.
I did ask Ray Dalio if he ever felt FOMO, and he'd never heard the term. So there's a conversation towards the end of the show on the Jordan Harbinger show with Ray Dalio. There's a conversation where I ask him and explain FOMO to him, and the answer, I don't 100% recall exactly what he said, so I don't want to misquote him. Plus, it's a good tease probably for the episode. But I thought it was interesting that Ray Dalio had never heard of FOMO. You know, like,
yeah.
And even when I said, fear of missing out, like missing out on an investment, and he was just like, like he didn't seem to be. It was weird because I thought he would go, oh my God, yeah, all the time, But
yeah, I would think so.
Because there, even in his book, in Principles, he talks about getting out of silver when silver was at like $10. This is probably in the 70s, for all I know. And he was kicking himself because his friend stayed in silver and spent all of his money and put it all in silver, and it went up to like $90. And then it went down to $9. So the guy lost everything.
That's like the crypto bubble, but the 80s version, where it was with metals.
And I thought that was interesting that one of the richest men he knew, who was also one of the wealthiest guys probably in the world at that time, I think he'd mentioned, put everything into silver. It's like, dude, you're one of the richest people around. Throw a couple $100 million in there and be satisfied with selling it when you're up 30%. Like, aren't there all kinds of phrases in investment land that say, like, you'll never go broke selling when you're up 20% or something like that?
Yeah, you'd think that he'd have a good risk management strategy for that.
Yeah, he probably had everybody telling him sell, and he's like, you don't know squat. I'm up 900%,
So you were doing that before? You were kind of like in the markets and advising on investments and stuff, and then you switched to do the more optimization, tax optimization, stuff like that?
Yep, absolutely. But I still got my butt kicked in real estate in 2008 because, listen to this.
I was going to ask you that because you had mentioned in the group that you lost a lot of money in 2008 and you learned a bunch of lessons that helped you come out of that, and now you're you're able to give people advice during this COVID crisis. So I was hoping to get into that.
This is what happened. I bought real estate from 2002 to 2007. I had over 100 doors. I owned between 20% and 100% of each one of those properties. And in June of 2007,
where did you put all the doors?
Well, I'm just saying, like,
no, I don't know the lingo, but I just pictured like you had 2,000 doors.
Okay, some were fourplex, so that's 4 doors, or duplex,
okay.
2 or single family. So I own
around real estate lingo is how many houses did you have, or how many doors?
Just over 100 properties.
100, okay.
Or something.
That's a lot.
So I had this event called How to Think Like a Bank, right? And it was in June. And as I'm teaching it, I have this epiphany. I'm like, the banks don't own real estate. Real estate's only their backup plan. It's their backup plan. And I'm like, here I am playing this real estate game that I don't love because I'm dealing with getting financing. I'm dealing with deferred maintenance issues and property managers, and someone slipped and hurt their hip. And I mean, it's just all sorts of stuff that was taking away from the things I enjoyed. And I was like, this is also like really, really overinflated. So in June, I go, I'm going to sell all my real estate. Now I go to all my partners. I said, let's sell. And one of my partners says, yeah, we should sell, but man, we should do 10 to 20% over market ask and then see if we sell some. And unfortunately, Brad, we did. So we sold some at above market ask. And I started thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make a killing. And because I was greedy, I got killed.
That's money.
But the Democrats won't talk about that. They'll talk about the whistleblower. And the whistleblower is not even a whistleblower. He's a spook. He worked for the CIA. He blew the whistle. And then he went back to work for the CIA afterwards. Edward Snowden and like Chelsea Manning and all these people are real whistleblowers.
But Snowden's a bad guy because he said Zcash might be good.
Yeah, to Bitcoiners. He's like, you can respect him for his whistleblowing, but not for Zcash shilling.
Yeah, no.
To keep pushing it, you got to work on your brand. You got to get to the right people. You just got to, and you got to be patient, man.
When you first started your podcast, you said you did it for fun. Were you talking more about crypto, or were you talking about Bitcoin back then too, or what was your podcast like back then?
So the original idea was going to be about trading, the first couple of shows, and then I did the Jameson Lot one. I was like, no, I want to do more broad Bitcoin. And then I did the Lynn Ulbricht one, which was like show 10 or 12, and I was like, no, I want to do like broad interest stories. I've just kind of found my path and realized I wanted to do other stuff. And there's never been like a plan, it's just reacting to stuff.
Okay, so for some reason I had it in my mind that you had started your podcast like a long time ago, but it really hasn't been that long ago.
November 17. I'm coming up to, next month will be 2 years.
Okay. And about, 6 months in, you decided you're going to treat it like a job?
No, it was about a year in. It was August 18. So it was about, August of last year. About a year ago, I started taking it a lot more serious.
And at the beginning, were you doing things like marketing, creating like clips to put up on Twitter and stuff, or were you just kind of pushing them out and letting people find it themselves?
Yeah, I was doing all kinds of stuff. Like I was trying to be noisy trying to get a presence on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it was effective, some of it was stupidity. I was trying to write stuff for Medium. I was just trying lots of different tactics, but the most effective thing I always found was just have a presence on Twitter, but not to argue, actually. Just have good takes and have good conversations. I really fight with not trolling and just doing silly stuff because it's totally unprofessional. But once you get into good conversations, that's the way to do it.
Your picture was interesting because you had your profile picture as you holding a guitar and you were standing in front of like a palm tree. And I always thought that palm tree was a mohawk. So it looked like you had a big giant mohawk on your Twitter profile. Like, oh, this guy's like some hardcore rocker guy. But you actually like did play in a band, right?
No, never. I was once in a hip hop band for a couple of weeks.
Do you play guitar, or were you just holding it?
No, dude. If you actually go back to the photo, the guitar's actually upside down. It's a left-handed one.
Oh, okay.
There was a guy named Jerry. He wanted to develop for Bitcoin certain things, and he would make some bips and he would push some code, and he kind of got ignored. And he was like, well, I just want to do this and see how my stuff plays out. So damn right I'm going to make my own chain. And he's done so much incredible stuff just on his own that, like, I've seen teams of 12, for example, on other altcoins that spend more time talking about the 2 or 3 things they're doing. And he's trying to implement, he's trying to learn POS system code and implement his own POS system. He created a method of trustless cold staking on his cryptocurrency. He's just one guy.
Oh, that's cool.
It's amazing. Like he's done, and it's provable on the blockchain. Like it's pretty radical what just one person has done, and again, it comes down to permissionlessness. Like the open source dev structure did not permit him to test out his code on Bitcoin.
Okay, here we are. Welcome, Scott Melker, to the Magic Internet Money Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
And possibly a cross episode if that's approved.
Indeed.
So I was following you a little bit on Twitter. I think you started to appear in my newsfeed maybe a year ago. And I admit I'm one of those people that used to think this guy's just some altcoin like charlatan or whatever. Then I started to pay closer attention to you, and it came up pretty obviously that you're not one of those like anonymous clout chaser people that came in the 2017 bubbles. Like you're actually a talented analyst and like you like Bitcoin. So I'm typically a Bitcoin maximalist, so I wanted to have you on, have a conversation with you to present maybe a good pro-Bitcoin side that some of these Bitcoiners think, oh, this guy's just like a altcoin shill or something like that. Sure, you trade altcoins, but you believe in Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I mean, even as a trader, I think I've been really transparent about the fact that I only trade with a minimal percentage of my portfolio. So I learned a very, very long time ago when trading stocks that investing was far more profitable and statistically far better for almost every person on this planet than trading. Early on, I had good people to teach me that you were a degenerate if you traded with your entire stack. So I only trade with roughly 15% of my stack. 70% is Bitcoin holds. I mean, that'll sometimes range from like 60 to 70%, and maybe I'll throw in like 10% Ethereum or something like that, but something large cap that I believe in. 15% cash and 15% to trade. So even if I'm fully maxed on my, altcoin trading, it's only 15% of my crypto portfolio that's even exposed. So that's actually a really pretty large misconception probably of me, perhaps just because of the way I tweet or the trades that I tweet about. But yeah, I believe in Bitcoin. I believe that Bitcoin is the market, sort of like buying an ETF and tracking the stock market, like buying the SPY or something like that. Markets rise over time generally, so I'm not going to try to outthink myself. I'm just going to keep buying Bitcoin.